She tried, but at the same time she didn't care if those countries really could apply the solution she promoted. She tried, but at the same time she saw Germany's interest, and we believe that isn't the best thing for the European Union. And yes, we do not blame her for seeing Germany's interest, but we are talking today if that interest is EU's interest or not, and it isn't. Because if those interests are different and Merkel only sees Germany's interest, we believe that is a loss and not a win for the European Union. Yes, please.
On the point of austerity, look, austerity can be implemented in a lot of ways. It can be implemented without cutting wages but still taxing more. But austerity was implemented in accordance to what the states wanted, not to what Merkel wanted. Therefore, it's the state's fault, not hers.
No, austerity in all those countries that Merkel gave bailout to, austerity was implemented exactly how it was implemented in Germany, with the same conditions and not regarding the stability or the economic force of that special nation, and that's why exactly it failed. Now, I am going to say why exactly that didn't work. And my colleague really proved you that Merkel opposed so many other measures that would have been better. She opposed Eurobonds, and we have explained to you why that would have been a benefit both for Greece and Germany, for the both countries. She opposed the banking union on thinking, for example, which would have meant control from the center over banks that are deeply indebted, and that would really have helped. She opposed all these measures that, yes, put Germany at risk, but at the same time were really good for European Union. She opposed this simply because she saw Germany's interest, and we believe that simply isn't a win for the European Union. And yes, she can, if she wants something to influence the European Union, she can candidate from other positions, which really prove that she can be a leader. You cannot be a leader from the shadows. That simply isn't going to work. Now, moving on to foreign policies, they told us that David Cameron was happy with Merkel because he wanted to be re-elected again. Well, that's exactly the same thing we told you. He wanted to be re-elected again, but in order to be re-elected, he had to calm down the UK people, which wanted nothing more but to have more power now than they have in the European Union. What that means, it means the European Union needs reforms in order for more power to be given to the government and not to Brussels. So if those measures are implemented, yes, David Cameron is going to be happy. But they are not, because what Merkel did was to oppose all those measures and all those reforms. So we believe the entire UK point simply falls, because David Cameron is not going to be happy if those measures are not implemented, and they are not going to be implemented. Now, on the point of USA, we really saw that, yes, she might be friends with Obama, but if we take a look at her previous mandates, she didn't really do anything about this relationship. She only cared about Germany, and maybe she tried to do something for the EU, and nothing on this international scene. Now, moving on to my own argument and about the future. They told us that Europe will enjoy further stability, austerity will be a long-term solution. No, ladies and gentlemen, austerity might be a long-term process, but not necessarily a solution, because it depends how you apply it and where exactly you apply it. And we see that even if the crisis passes, we will have no idea where to stop. Merkel will try, she's a conservative. She declared that she will keep her policies going and she will not stop austerity and all those measures she imposed. And we see that that is going to be bad. We will see Germany distancing from other countries because the policies she implements in Germany are much lighter, and Germany will reach such a level that it will simply cannot cooperate with other countries in the European Union, and we believe that is wrong. She also opposes beneficial measures. Since 2011, a lot of reforms were proposed, and she opposed them all. A banking union, a fiscal union meant to create fiscal discipline and joint money. All those things she opposed. And at the same time, she didn't really say, I do not want that. But when it came to Germany applying, she was the first to step back. And yes, she goes step by step. But we believe that she applies a policy of one step forward and one step back. And we believe that isn't the right thing. Because yes, she reluctantly agrees to bail out Greece when it maybe was already too late, but at the same time she opposes all these measures that should have been better. And ladies and gentlemen, if she really wants to be a leader, please stop her being a leader from the shadows. Yes, you can try to influence the European Union in a good way, but in that moment you'll have to think of all those measures that might be good. You should try not to impose things as you want them, and you should really start caring about the other countries and the European Union. And for all those reasons, because her policies really weren't that good, were simply not the best, because the future is not looking brighter either, because her foreign policies simply do not matter much. We believe that the re-election of Angela Merkel is, if not a loss, certainly not a win for the European Union.
Thank you. Now we call on the third speaker of the governing session.
Ladies and gentlemen, the proposition today believes that a win for the European Union is actually bringing some stability in the Eurozone, bringing some stability between the countries from the European Union. We believe that is exactly why we need Angela Merkel to be the head of the European Union, as she has been for 2 mandates, and now she has gained the third win. And we believe that it is also a win for the European Union. And I am going to prove to you by going to 2 points. First of all, talking about step by step, and second of all, talking about the keeping the European Union together. Alright, let's start with the first point, that is step by step. And just like my point is called, so are her policies called, step by step. Because she wants to take things on a long-term solution. And that is exactly what I want to talk about. That is basically austerity, like it happened in Greece, like in Italy or Spain. And the first thing we're talking about austerity, it is that the opposition told us that you have to make sure that austerity works. Well, exactly, ladies and gentlemen, you have to make sure that austerity works. And that is why you need to actually have a leader that is there for long enough to make sure that austerity is going to give good results in the end. And that is why we believe that it's a win for the European Union, having Merkel there for another mandate. And more than that, we believe that Merkel has applied austerity measures differently in Greece than it has in Spain or Italy, depending on the severity of the problems that the different countries had. Like, for example, Greece, that was deep in a hole, got a lot more severe austerity measure than Spain or Italy did, because their problems were not that severe as Greece's were. And more than that, the problem arises about Germany, because the opposition keeps telling us that austerity measures have been applied in Germany. But ladies and gentlemen, Germany has not changed one bit since Merkel was there. So we ask very, very nicely for team opposition to actually bring forward a very an actual example of how Germany actually changed under Merkel. Because we see that Germany has not changed and has been stable under Merkel for so long. And when we are actually talking about austerity measures, we ask the question, what else could have been done? And ladies and gentlemen, we believe that nothing else could have been done at that point for Greece other than austerity. Because we believe that Greece was in such a point that if austerity measures would have not been imposed, it would have actually gotten into debt default, which basically means that Greece would have declared that it would not pay debt anymore and not its creditors, and that would actually get it into, well, she would not have paid anything anymore, but that would have lowered her rating into actually lending money, and no one would have lent it any money anymore. Not the European Bank, not the Monetary Fund, nothing ever, because her rating would have gotten down. No, thank you. And more than that, not paying your creditors means that no one is going to invest in your country anymore. And we believe that it is a worse measure than actually having austerity for several years till you get back on track. And we believe that actually Merkel actually succeeded to getting Greece back on track, because we see that Greece has not reached this point. Yes, it might have took several bailouts, several conditioned bailouts to get it back on the track, but we believe that exactly because Merkel is still in power, is going to keep helping Greece. And more than that, in opposition sensed the idea that it was Merkel's fault that Greece got in trouble. But we believe that it was not, ladies and gentlemen. Greece got in trouble and Merkel is trying to help. And we believe that Merkel is going to keep trying to help her. Okay, now let's talk here also a bit about the conditional bailout that Merkel is actually giving. And we believe that that is a very good decision, because austerity measures are often frowned upon by states because they are not really popular measures. By actually giving conditional bailouts with the condition of imposing austerity measures, Merkel actually has succeeded to impose these measures into countries like Greece, like Italy, and to actually help them get a bit out of the euro crisis that they have gotten into. And we believe that was a very smart move for Mrs. Chancellor, because we believe that if she were not to do, we would have lost Greece, we would have lost a lot of countries in the eurozone, which would have made us not trust the euro more, and that would have gotten us into lowering the buying power of the euro currency, and that would have gotten us into even more problems. Okay, let's move on to my second point. Yes, please.
Even though austerity might have helped countries on the spot with a very little level, that doesn't mean it is going somewhere. It isn't going anything. We're not going to stop it. It is going to be harmful in the long run.
Okay. Alright then, I have already explained how austerity is a measure on the long term, because you cannot expect to actually solve all the problems that Greece has, that is so deep into this hole of debt, to actually be solved in 2 years, 3 years, or even 4 years. It takes a long time, and we believe that is exactly why this Merkel being in power for another mandate is the win for the euro. Okay, second point, keeping the European Union together. First of all, about David Cameron, we believe that, well, we want UK in our European Union, exactly how my teammate Veronica has explained. Because, well, you know, we want UK to be there because it has to receive immigrants, it has to offer jobs, it has to pay cotizations to the central bank, to the European Union, and help us with a lot of money that we can invest. And people actually trust Merkel because, as Alice has explained to you, she is actually the image of power in the European Union. She is the image of stability. And that is exactly what we are looking for. A counter for all the Euroscepticism that is going on right now in the UK and in the European Union as a whole. And we believe that when the UK actually gets out of the European Union, the level of Euroscepticism is going to go high. Because we are going to lose all trust in the European Union. We do not want that, ladies and gentlemen. So if the people from the citizens of the UK want Merkel, we believe that it is actually, in fact, a win for the European Union that Merkel is still there. No, thank you. Now, we're talking about authority. Well, first of all, no, thank you, ma'am. No one actually really trusts blindly someone with the fate of their own country just because she's Merkel. Of course, people question her decisions. Of course, people actually ask questions, and the heads of the state ask questions of whether Merkel's decisions are best or not. But we believe that Merkel's decisions, as they have also believed, are the best right now for what the European Union needs. That is basically stability. And more than that, if they actually do trust her blindly, okay, well, it's better than actually having Euroscepticism and the European Union going by state, starting with the UK. So we believe that, yes, we would rather have people actually trust Mrs. Chancellor, and actually, that is exactly what we believe, that we might actually need a bit of trust in her measures, a bit of trust in the austerity measures that might actually help the Eurozone. And when talking about Germany interest, well, first of all, Germany interest is to keep the European Union together. And that is exactly what Mrs. Chancellor is doing, because when you keep the European Union together, Germany has a lot to win. It has to win from the exports that it's doing. It has to win from the Eurozone. It has to win from all these things. So yes, it is in the Germany's interest to keep the European Union together and to keep the euro currency going. And more than that, Germany is giving back. And when we say that Germany is giving back, we also have to look at who else is doing this. We believe that no one else can actually help the European Union as Germany does, because Germany is the most stable country in the European Union in the Eurozone right now. Because we see that France is poor, we see that Spain and Italy are going downhill. And more than that, we see that Sweden does not even want to help. So we actually find ourselves in front of the fact that Germany is the only one that can help and that wants to help the European Union. So I hope that at the end of the day you will come home. Thank you.
We thank the speaker, and now we call on the third speaker from the opposition side.
Now, the government as a whole actually proves our case because they trust Merkel way too much, just as the current leaders of European countries do trust Merkel today, and they believe almost everything she says, and they believe almost everything she says is okay and is fine because, well, she's Merkel. Now, I'm going to have 3 points in my speech. The first one, austerity versus Eurobonds or investments. The second one about the total lack of common foreign policy plan for the European Union. And the third one about the Merkel argument. Now, the first one about austerity versus bonds. They have told us that, look, austerity, and people think that, look, when looking at Merkel, look, austerity works so well in Germany. Look how well Germany works after Merkel tried, austerity in Germany. But the thing is, the thing that people don't realize is that we are talking about a developed country that actually implemented austerity as a prevention measure to the coming. Sir, okay.
Give us an example of a policy that was implemented by Merkel in Germany in the last 10 years.
In 2003, she imposed austerity, the same austerity that was imposed later in the PIGS, the so-called PIGS countries, of the exact same model, just the way it was applied in Germany. And as you said, the problem was that we were talking about a fully developed German, a fully developed country. And the thing is that when they actually made the taxes higher, those companies and all the companies in Germany were able to pay those taxes because they had the money, they had profits, they were well developed, they were working in a developed country. So you didn't actually have to leave Germany for because of anything. And after a while, they actually managed to take over the austerity. And so the only thing that she made was make a stack for the coming European crisis, because as we know, Merkel is very cautious. But let's now look at what happened when we impose this kind of model, of austerity model, in an undeveloped country. So we see that, let's say Greece, for example, okay? It is an undeveloped country, and when you actually get the taxes higher in there, all the investors, all the companies, will tend to leave or go bankrupt because they don't have enough profits to pay the same amount of money to the state, just as companies in Germany have been doing. And that moment, those companies will go bankrupt as they all leave. And that moment, we will have less people working, people will lose their jobs. And in the moment people lose their jobs, they won't be actually able to pay any more money to the state. So this is where the bigger part of nothing of a small pie comes into play. The budget has less money, even if it imposes higher taxes because all investors leave the country because it's not profitable anymore. And the worst thing about this, even if they tell us that, well, it's a long-lasting measure. No, it's not a long-lasting measure because whenever you are trying to get out of austerity, you won't be able to because you will depend on those high taxes because if you lower the taxes, you won't be able to pay all your citizens because there are no longer money coming from enough people, so you have to pay more money from less people. So it will be really dangerous. No, thank you. So why bonds are a lot better than austerity? Because bonds creates more fares. Bonds creates and investment creates more workplaces, more companies that will pay taxes to that state. So in that moment, the state will have more places where they get income. Now, afterwards, don't think that the only solution for Greece was austerity. Now, this is really, it is wrong because in that moment, bonds could have been easily used. The big problem is in Greece, as they said, was corruption. And if Germany would have said, okay, we are going to buy bonds, if you start collecting taxes, my friends, because we are not going to pay, you have to pay that money to us, it can be enough. The only reason that for which in austerity they started collecting taxes because Germany is watching us, we have to collect tax, we can't do our corruption thing anymore. Now, the second point, the lack of foreign policy. Their thing is, look, Merkel is very an influent person, and she, because of her third win, we will be able to keep UK in the European Union. This is again not true because, as my colleague said, Cameron would agree to stay in the European Union only if Merkel would implement measures giving more power to the governments. But Merkel is either indifferent to this or has a pro-Brussels or she is pro-Brussels power to give more power to the European Union as a whole. So their thing about Cameron and UK cannot actually be taken into consideration. Now, about this US thing. So they have thought that, well, she has a lot of influence in the US and their friends and company, but the truth is that she has done absolutely anything with this until now. And after the scandal, these relations are not so nice as before. So we think that, no thank you. And moreover, the only thing, she doesn't want to a common foreign policy for the whole European Union, and instead of building spheres of influence as the USA and so on are doing, we're doing absolutely nothing, just watching it and from time to time making our relations worse. So this is again not a win for Europe, because we will no foreign, we will no influence spheres as a whole union. Now, the third point about the Merkel argument. Now this is something like the God argument, because people and politicians, and in most cases of the politicians of Western countries of Europe tend to be astounded by how Germany works and how strong economy Germany has. So in that moment, the same thing that the God argument does, why you do that? Because God. The same thing would happen to those countries, because it would be something, why you do this? Because Merkel says this, because Merkel did it, and it worked. And the truth is, this will not always work. Why? Because, and moreover, even if all these measures won't be always trusted, at least it would be a high bias on trusting an influential person as Merkel. Now, what will happen in this? It will be that there will be, because of Merkel, there aren't enough conflicting opinions so that the best would prevail. Things that either good or bad, even if decision would be bad, politicians will still tend to agree with it because, well, she's Merkel, she knows her thing, look at Germany and so on. She won 3 mandates, and won the last elections by a high margin. So we think that because of all these reasons, Merkel is really, really influential, and people tend to trust her no matter what. And experience isn't a guarantee that she will do great in the future. What we have told you today, that the austerity measures that Merkel is imposing are not good at all, neither on short term nor on long term, and others are a lot better. And the second would be about her opposing foreign policy plan, and then that she is way too influential and is biasing politicians to trust her when it's not the case. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, to reply speeches, and call the reply speaker for a side on
During her campaign for this year's elections, Angela Merkel herself told journalists a story about the time when she was a student in East Germany. So at physical education classes, they had to jump from trampolines at a certain height into a pool. And those classes, at one point, reached the point of an exam, a challenge, a crisis, whatever you want to call it. And she went up there, and she had to jump from the highest trampoline. And she stood there and thought for about 15 minutes if she should jump or not. And at the end, when the bell was about to ring, she jumped and missed and did it wrong. And we see that it is amazing how this reflects in her agenda and her ideology today. She just simply is not sure, her plan is not to have a plan, she stays and thinks, and at the end, her measures aren't even good from the time she spent taking them. So now let's take a look at exactly the point that were discussed today. So we are going to talk about measures, because that was really what was talking about. And let's first clarify how she took those measures, because they wanted to clarify that, and we explained that all throughout our arguments. So it isn't going to work, that influence, if there is someone else from Germany, because her influence isn't simply a result of the force that Germany is economically and political, but also the fact that she has spent 8 years of the house of Germany, that she has been there, she has created all these networks of relationships, and that is why she is so influential, and not just because of Germany. So yes, that influence, that way too big influence, is simply wrong and simply there if she is the chancellor of Germany and no one else. Now, that influence is in itself bad. Now, let's say we do not care if the measures are good or bad, but that influence is in itself bad, because what that means is that if she wants to take a wrong decision, no one can contradict her. And they said that, well, other leaders will ask questions. There is a difference between asking questions and really confronting Angela Merkel. The decisions she makes, be they wrong or right, are going to be taken by the entire Europe, and we believe that is wrong themselves. Even more, we believe that is wrong because the measures were not the best one. Because we have explained to you, our austerity doesn't work everywhere. It's like planting the same seeds but on a different ground. If it works in Germany, it doesn't mean it's going to work as well somewhere else. Further on, the second point, we have explained that in the long term it is not a good solution because we will not have any idea how to stop and how to get away from austerity. And third of all, we have explained you how that will create unhealthy differences between countries, unhealthy different levels, Germany and South countries, for example. Even more, she opposed all these measures that would have been good. Eurobonds, banking union, fiscal union, all those measures that we have explained to you would have been better and would have been better if she opposed them. But she didn't really oppose, she was really unsure. Was she agreeing or not? We believe that is a mistake. We believe that maybe it is not one step back and one step forward. Maybe it is one step back and perhaps one step forward. And we believe that simply is wrong for the European Union because the measures she takes are wrong and she opposes other measures that would have been good. And for the foreign policy, we didn't even really play such a major role in her agenda. We believe that simply isn't that important, that we have explained to you with David Cameron how that works. We have explained that she didn't really care that much about USA. And if we are going to talk about the future in our world and there, we are not going to see, thriving Europe, just because they gave us examples of countries who are in big trouble now, and that is not going to change, and that simply proves that the measures were not the best. We are saying that we'll have a Europe with Merkel influencing this. We are saying we'll have a Europe which is not going to be not only controlled by Merkel, but also Merkel will not assume responsibility no matter what it takes. So this third mandate of her is wrong and certainly not a win for Europe, whatever she does next. Whether because her influence is just so big or whether because she will continue her wrong methods.
Very now to conclude this debate, we call on the proposition.
Ladies and gentlemen, one step back and one step forward means you end up in the same place. It means stability. That is what we wanted to prove to you today, that through what Angela Merkel does for the European Union, she does things in order to stabilize the Union, in order to have these policies work on the long term. We believe that we have fulfilled this. Let's see. First of all, I'll talk about austerity versus Eurobonds and other measures that have been taken. And second of all, I go to the point of abuse and power and trust, and I'll talk about image. These were the two main debated themes that we talked about. First of all, about austerity. They say, what the opposition was saying throughout the debate is that the Chancellor only does things for Germany. First of all, what we have been telling you is that this is the country with the fewest structural changes in the last 10 years. Germany hasn't really changed that much. And second of all, what we have been telling you is that the interest of Germany is to actually save the euro and help the eurozone. We see nothing wrong with what she was doing in rejecting the other measures like Eurobonds and like union banking. We believe that it is perfectly fair if the end game is to save the euro and to help Germany. We believe that more than that, Merkel didn't get Greece into a recession like the opposition seems to believe. Merkel just wants to help Greece, and she does that by taking a step-by-step approach and by taking the only available solution, because like it or not, Germany is the only country that wants to do something for the Eurozone and wants to do something for the smaller countries. We believe that, for example, we have possibilities, like Monica told you about Sweden, but these are countries that do not want to help. We believe that what Germany does is perfectly justified because at least it stabilizes the situation. Furthermore, if we also talk about Greece, about Eurobonds, we see what we told you is that they wouldn't be able to pay anyway. They aren't able to pay with austerity, without austerity, if we impose Eurobonds, if we don't impose Eurobonds. They aren't able to pay the investors if we are talking about Eurobonds. We believe that this solves nothing as well. Furthermore, about austerity and getting it done like in Germany for every country. What we